I don't know who took those 49ers from where, but somebody jumped in a time machine. And for one day at least, the San Francisco 49ers look like the team we all know and love. What is good, everybody? Welcome to the Gold Standard Instant Reaction Podcast and the Gold Standard and the Fans First Sports Network. I'm your host, Rob Stats Guerrero. 11 Black's going to jump in here in a minute. But for one day, at least, somebody jumped into a time machine and brought back the 49ers that we know and love because they absolutely dominated the Chicago Bears 38-13. And it was like Kyle Shanahan heard all of us, right? It was like finally he went, fine. You want to see screen passes? I'll throw some screen passes. Fine, George Kittle. You want the ball? Okay, George, I'll throw you the ball. I'll dial up some designed looks for you. Okay, fine. We'll do that. Everything that we wanted to see the 49ers do, almost everything, they did. And they didn't just do it. They executed it flawlessly, and they billy clubbed the Bears 38-13. The defense even forced a turnover, which is something they hadn't done the last couple of games. It was the team that we expected to see this year. Let's be honest. They played finally like that team. They finally put 4 quarters of football together. And this is what they can do when they do that, right? We knew this was in there. We knew it was in there, and that's part of the frustration of the season. They kept saying it. We kept saying it. And finally, it came out today. Gerardo H. says, Rob's happy to lose money today. Yeah, I am. I don't care. I lost all my bets. I don't care. I want to see my team win. I don't care about the draft pick. I don't care about the draft position. I'm happy today. As we welcome in Levin Black. Levin, I was just saying, it's like Kyle Shanahan heard all our complaints and finally just decided to listen to us because we saw almost everything we wanted to see today offensively.
My takeaway from this game is, what the fuck took you so long?
Well, great.
It's the first game and only game this season, probably, that was fun throughout.
Yep, exactly.
But as the fourth quarter wore on and the win or loss was decided, I kept thinking, okay, you finally changed everything. So this season got lost because you were too stubborn.
Look, I don't know if that was the reason. I don't know what, and I'll be fascinated to hear Kyle after the game. Honestly, I think what happened is this was one of the few times where the Bears did what they've been doing, where the 49ers opponent didn't change things up. I think Kyle was like, I'm studying them. This is what they do. He told the Fox crew he expected them to do different stuff, and I don't think they did. Jonathan Vilma was like, they're doing the same old stuff. And what happens when Kyle Shanahan knows what you're going to do, Levin? It looks exactly like it looked today. Guys were wide-ass open. George Kittle was getting so open. There was nobody within 10 yards of him, and the Niners just went up and down the field in the first half. I think they had over 300 yards in the first half of offense. It was unbelievable.
But it wasn't just the offense. The defense was also different. There was more blitzing. There was more aggression from that defense. It seems like they finally adjusted. Now that the season's over, they finally adjusted. But if that's what it takes for Kyle to have a good offense, then 1, why did teams wait so long to do this? 2, what's the long-term solution? Like, Kyle's only good if the other team runs the same stuff that they've already run? That means you're not a very good play designer. You're just good at going, okay, they do that, I'll beat that. Like,
yeah, but
you got to be able to.
Are you saying he's not a good play designer?
No, I'm saying if Kyle needs to know what the defense is going to do, and the defense has to be predictable to be good, then how good is he really?
That's what I'm asking you. So are you saying he's not good?
I'm not saying it. I'm saying it's quite possible. Like, that could be a huge Achilles heel. Like, you have to be able to come up with stuff nobody else has seen and do it against a defense that you don't necessarily know what's going to be.
Man, a 38-13 win, and the human wet blanket is over here starting the show with Kyle Shanahan's not really a good play caller. Okay. Gabe Garoni says, finally, a full 4-quarter performance. I completely agree with you. Zach Cox says, first game, it has felt easy all year.
Yeah.
Exactly. It felt, I mean, in that first half, it was unbelievable. And I think that, and the other thing that happened is the Bears came out and they were like, the Niners are going to run the ball. They're going to give it to Guerendo. And they kept loading up to stop the run. And Kyle was like, no, actually, we're going to pass. He started the game with a pass. Brock actually threw the ball to Isaac Guerendo. The 49ers had 5 plays. I lost count, but I think it's 5 plays of 30-plus yards on the day. They were chewing up yardage. And finally, 11, when they got to the red zone, they scored. They scored touchdowns. They didn't dick around, for lack of a better word. They got it in the end zone.
And did you see how they got it into the end zone and how they got going in the beginning of the game? They went to Jennings. Jennings is a great big receiver, but they also ran a lot in the red zone, and they found success. So what changed there? Because they haven't been able to find success, and they're down their number 1 and their number 2 running back. So you can't tell me, oh, it was Christian McCaffrey or it was Jordan Mason. So what changed in terms of that? But I also noticed, and I'm sure you did, boy, it certainly seemed like they made a point to get George Kittle the ball in this game.
Imagine that. How many times have I been saying it? Blocking is the second best thing George Kittle does. He was clearly upset with his targets and his catches after last week. He said it publicly. And like Michelle Majuk told me on Friday when she was here, the squeaky wheel gets the cheese, as she said. Kind of a little mixed metaphor there, but George Kittle, 6 catches, 151 yards on the day. And the thing I loved is they were dialing up plays specifically for him. Screen passes to George Kittle. See, Kyle Shanahan can do it. Thank you, Kyle. Draw up plays to get the ball in the hands of your playmakers. George is just as good as he ever was, if not better this year. And he rewarded the team for it. And they were just chunking the Bears down the field all game long. Even in the second half, they continued it.
There was a lot of play actions and a lot of rollouts off play action too. They moved the pocket. Boy, is that a counter to having a bad offensive line? I don't think I've ever heard anybody say, if you have a bad offensive line, move the quarterback away from them. Interesting concept. Very creative.
And you know what else we didn't see today? We didn't see Brock Purdy run. Why? Because he was able to get the ball, hit his back foot, and go to his first read. He didn't have to run, is the short answer for that, because everything that they were doing was working. Kittle, 6 for 151. Jennings, 7 for 90, 2 touchdowns. Guerendo had 2 catches for 50 yards. How about the little blind throw that Brock had? They came with a blitz, and just like he did with CMC earlier this year, Brock just let it go on the rail route, and Guerendo made the catch, made a difficult, like, sliding type of catch and hauled it in. It was like, yes, you can throw to a running back that's not wearing 23. It was all working today.
Do you know what position Guerendo was in high school? He won Mr. Football in the state of Indiana as a wide receiver. Yeah, as a wide receiver. So yes, he can catch the ball. He won the state's Mr. Football as a wide receiver.
The only negative, well, 2 negative things today. One, Guerendo left and was in the medical tent with what I believe Jennifer Lee Chan called a foot injury, which, great. Now we're going to possibly be on RB5 because remember, the Niners play on Thursday this week. So not a lot of time to rest up and heal up. So that was a negative. And then Deebo Samuel, man, he looks utterly cooked. They got him the ball on a couple of end around. He is slow.
He had daylight and ran at the defender.
I spent this week watching 2021 highlights because, I'm a psychopath. It's not even in the same universe, the type of explosion that Deebo had. Dallas E says, not to be negative, but I really don't want to see Deebo anymore. That was the only time the Niners offense bogged down in the first half was when Deebo touched the ball, quite frankly. Whether it was a run or a short pass. The one thing I like that they did with Deebo in the first half is they did that Packers running play where they faked the handoff to Deebo, spun around and gave it to Guerendo. And Guerendo took off. I think he had like a 10-yard gain or something like that. It was a nice run. But yeah, I noticed the stark difference. Deebo he looks used up. Unless he's fighting an injury, like he looks that hampered. And I'm sorry, it should be Kittle, it should be Jennings, it should be Guerendo if he's there, and then God forbid Pearsall and Jacob Cowie.
Do you know what the high amount of receiving yards is for Deebo in the last 4 games?
20?
22. He tied it today.
Oh, whew. Yeah, it's
22. He has 3 or 4 straight games now of 20 yards receiving, but it's been 20, 21, and 22 twice.
Yeah.
It's beyond terrible. And like I said, Pearsall should be starting.
Hey, let's focus on the positive today. I completely agree with you, but I'm not going to sit here and they scored 38 points with nothing from Deebo Samuel.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's a good thing.
That was not possible in previous years.
That's true. Kyle McAndrew says, flying my 49ers flag upside down until next playoffs. Hey, we can be happy today. I know that, things didn't break the Niners' way because Seattle won, and it looked, I don't know if the Rams game is final, but it's all, the Bills just scored, so it's 44-41 with a minute to go. The Rams are probably going to win that one unless something crazy happens. Dix Wyan Snyder says, a healthy Yetur Gross-Matos is fire. How about the Niners D today? I know Caleb Williams holds the ball, but 6 sacks by San Francisco, 2 from Leonard Floyd. Malik Collins had a beautiful sack. Yetur had 3. Nice to see some pressure on the quarterback for a change, Levin.
Yeah, and they were able to do it without Nick Bosa, which is not something you could say in recent years.
Mm-hmm.
And it was consistent. They weren't just getting pressure, they were getting home. There were a few plays where, yes, Williams escaped, but that was more he broke a tackle to escape. They were disciplined. When Williams held the ball more than 3 seconds, he had nowhere to go. There were 2 guys from the outside that stayed on the outside, but were getting pressure and closing in. And the 2 guys up front were pushing the interior lineman back. So he had nowhere to go. He couldn't go to either side and he couldn't go up the middle. They were disciplined and effective. And we haven't seen that really all year.
Imagine that. Disciplined and effectiveness. Pretty good combination if you can get it. 4King Crazy, YouTube channel member, says, thoughts on Isaac Guerendo? I think he can clearly make it as an NFL running back. 17 touches for Guerendo, 128 total yards, 2 touchdowns on the day. Now, as a running back, he was okay. 15 carries for 78 yards. He had a long of 30 that did a lot of work there. But I like that they used him out of the backfield as a receiver. They got the ball in his hands and allowed that speed, his raw physical skills, to take over. He's got a little work to do in pass protection. There was one play where he got absolutely bulldozed by a linebacker. That's not uncommon for a rookie running back, though. There's hope, at least, for Guerendo.
Right now, what he looks like to me is a poor man's Chris Johnson. And that is, if he has daylight, he's going to make the most of it. But if he doesn't have daylight, he's not somebody that's going to turn, nothing into something. He will have a 0-yard run, followed by a 1-yard run, followed by a 15-yard gain, so that it ends up averaging 5 yards.
He doesn't have a ton of tackle breaking ability. Like, usually the first contact kind of stops him. And I don't mean that as a knock. It's just more of a general observation. He's fast as hell. Like, you could see the juice. When he gets even a little space in the open field, I'm like, oh, he's getting 5 more yards because nobody's catching up to him. So
I'll say this. He's good enough to be a starter, I think. Like, I see starting capability in him. I don't necessarily see, he will be dominant. And, I don't see ball carrier vision and elusiveness to make guys miss that he can do it without great blocking. But he could have a career if he plays with a Kyle Shanahan offense where, he puts up some numbers. He's good enough.
And the run blocking in this one was way better. Yeah. Unfortunately, Ben Barch got hurt in this game early on. Spencer Burford came in, but the run blocking was light years better than what we've seen recently. So that's obviously very, very encouraging. A couple more super chats. Larkin, YouTube channel member, says, nice to see Brock taking checkdowns, much more disciplined today. He didn't have to force anything today because dudes were wide ass open all day long. And it was nice to see. I didn't have that feeling where he drops back to pass and I'm like, oh no, something bad might happen. There was only one pass early on that got tipped up in the air that could have been intercepted that Jennings made a nice play on to catch. Other than that, there weren't even any scary throws.
And even that throw, it was right on the money. I think the defender just made a good pass deflection. Like, I don't blame that throw. Jennings did have a little bit of a crease, and it was going to hit Jennings in stride perfectly in his hands, but the defender made a dive and got a good tip on it. Like, to me, that's just good defense.
Nicholas says, Levin, I got disqualified from winning the homage raffle that we did because you're the reason I subbed to the channel. Help me get 2 tickets in the raffle. # faithful to the Bay. So we did an homage giveaway on Friday to celebrate 20,000 YouTube subscriptions, which thank you, everybody. That blows my mind. So I really appreciate that. And I said, leave a comment on the video. Tell us why you subscribed. And somebody said, I subscribed because 11. Nicholas said that. And I was like, well, then you're disqualified.
I knew nothing of the raffle, but congrats, Nicholas. You won. No, I have no idea. I have not been privy to the raffle stuff, really. I've been really busy this weekend, and I honestly was not able to listen to the Friday show. So
thanks, jerk. Lionheart Revenant says, let's talk about the 4th down success. Keep going. Yeah, that's like I said, it's like Kyle Shanahan heard all of our complaints and just was like, fine, I'll shut these guys up. Niners went for it twice on 4th down today. They made it both times, even at the end of the game when, it really didn't even matter. They lined up for a field goal. Then Kyle called timeout and was like, bleep it. Let's go for it. And then they went for it and they got it.
Yeah, it makes me wonder. I wish they didn't show the sideline, or at least not that I noticed. But I wonder if Brock went over there and was like, you're yellow. You're turning yellow in front of me. Let's go for it, dang it.
Yeah, somehow I don't suspect that was the case.
I did notice one change for Kyle. I've been waiting for it all year. He cleaned up.
Did he get a haircut?
His beard was gone, or mostly gone. He had stubble, but he didn't have beard. And at least from the times I saw him, I did not see the hair sticking out. So I think he got a haircut.
Oh, I hope so. That's not a good look for anybody. Bay Marin. Thank you, Bay Marin. Nice super chat. Appreciate that. YouTube channel member says, Sam Okwano recovered the fumble. It was Okwano who finished the game. Thank you, Sam Okwano. That was the only moment of hesitation for me in this game where I was, just because of the 49ers history of blowing things. The Bears get the ball back to start the second half. They go on a 16-play, 70-yard drive that scores a touchdown. It took 9 minutes, which wasn't the worst thing in the world. That was kind of if they're going to score, at least make it take a long time. But then the Niners get the ball back. They go 3 and out, and the Bears get the ball back, and all of a sudden they are turning down the field again. And I'm texting you. I'm texting everybody like, oh, my God, is this really going to be a thing?
You didn't text me, you liar.
All right, well, I was texting other people. And 2nd and 8, and Caleb Williams drops back, and he fumbles the ball. I thought it was a fumble the second I saw it. It was a classic tuck rule by Tom Brady where he went forward, and you could tell he was trying to tuck it in because he wasn't going to pass it, and he dropped the ball. It was initially ruled an incomplete pass. Then they finally corrected it and turned it into a fumble because it went backwards anyway. So even if it was a pass, it was a backwards pass, which is a fumble, and the Niners got it back, and that was the last gasp or hope of anything from the Bears offense.
Yeah, I would be lying if the thought didn't occur to me when they had the ball there that, are they really going to blow this? But I don't know. I felt like a different team showed up. The analogy that I thought of during the game was, it's almost like you're walking down the street and you pass an old friend that you haven't seen in a decade or more. And you're like, that kind of looks familiar. It's not quite the same, but it looks familiar. That's the Niners, what I felt like. I haven't seen them in a year, but boy, did they kind of look familiar. It's not quite the same. Some names have changed.
Right.
But they looked like their old selves.
We're getting some news from the post-game podium. Jennifer Lee Chan says, Isaac Guerendo's foot injury is a foot sprain. Ben Barsh has a high ankle sprain. High ankle sprain. He's probably going to keep him out for a month. That's unfortunate because I would have liked to see him in there. Guerendo foot sprain. He may not be able to go by Thursday. We'll see what happens. It could be the Patrick Taylor Jr. show. Unfortunately, man, that's a bummer because it would have been nice. He could have given them a little juice against the Rams. Matthew Rowley says, too little, too late. I think the Bears normally run cover 3, which is what Kyle's scheme is built to beat. Nice to win, but it's the Bears. This did nothing but show a lot of backup should be starters and hurt draft position. I get why you look at it that way, Matthew. I do. I want to be happy for the last few weeks. You know what? Look, I've seen the 49ers have really good draft position and draft Solomon Thomas. You know what? So I would rather see them win, and we'll see what happens in the draft. But I want to be happy today. I'm not saying your reaction is wrong. I get it, especially because the Rams won and because the Seahawks won, so that didn't help the 49ers at all. I get it. Completely understand it. But you know what? When I watch this team, I want to be happy, man. And it was so good in the first half. The first half of this game, I'm not making this up. This is not an exaggeration. This is not an embellishment. The Bears averaged 0.2 yards per play in the first half of this game. I've never seen that before.
I mean, I know I've seen it because I can remember games that I watched, not necessarily Niner games, but where one of the teams had negative yards at halftime. But it's been long enough to where I know I was a kid and I can't remember the specific game. So yes, it was quite bad. I think it was something like 319 yards to 4. I think was the halftime.
I wrote it down. It was 319 to 4. That's correct. So good memory by you. I saw somebody, I think on Blue Sky, said that the 0.2 yards per play was actually only the third worst since 2012, to which my response was, how the hell could you have two other performances that were worse than 0.2 yards per play?
Oh, that's only the third worst for the Bears or the third worst in the NFL?
Third worst in the NFL.
Okay.
But still, it's 0.2 yards per play. I mean, you walk 6 feet, you've gained more yards than the Bears did in the first half.
I mean, yeah, but like I said, there are games where the team does nothing all half and they have like one bad snap or a couple sacks that put them way in the negative.
It was the most yards that any team has gained in the first half this season in the entire NFL. The Bears had more yards lost on sacks than passing yards, and they had more punts than yards in the first half. So that's how thoroughly the 49ers dominated. Batman29 says Kyle was in his bag with the fourth downs and the challenges. I'll say this. Like, if you thought the 49ers were checked out and that Kyle, like, that they weren't playing for Kyle anymore, they did today. And you could say it doesn't count. It's the Bears, but there's checked out and there's not checked out. And clearly the 49ers weren't today.
No, they were not. They looked like their old selves. There's still the slightest, tiniest, ittiest bit of playoff possibility. If they win out at 10-7, they're likely to get in.
Well, but here's the other thing, right? Let's say they win out. And again, I don't think they will because I think the Lions are still going to kick their butts. But whatever. Let's say they win out and they go 10-7 and they don't make the playoffs. Are you firing Kyle Shanahan then?
No.
I think I wouldn't fire him now, but people keep bringing that up, because I think they look at it as like, well, they weren't going to win another game. And what if they finish with a losing record? Or what if they don't?
There's certain people bringing it up and they're fans of a certain person.
That's true. Brock Purdy says, is Purdy hurt? He did go down in this game. That was a play. Bears linebacker Taylor, I don't know his first name. He jumped up and then he basically bent Brock Purdy's head back and then came down and landed on Brock's head at the end of the game. He only missed a play. He was dinged up a couple of times. I think he hit his hand on a follow through. I don't know if Kyle said anything about Brock after the game, but it's definitely something to keep an eye on, especially again with the short week this week against the Rams coming up.
It was a scary play, and maybe he has some lingering pain to where it becomes a thing this week. I will say, because I saw a couple comments talking about how it was a dirty play. I don't think it was dirty. The linebacker jumped to try to block a pass. Purdy held it and then threw the ball. And the guy was in midair. He couldn't. It's like in basketball when somebody goes up for a rebound and then the guy, or for a block, and the guy with the ball cut at the last second. You can't do anything once in the air.
Yeah,
I don't think it was dirty.
I don't think it was dirty. I think it was just unfortunate. What do you make of the Talanoa Hufanga return? Jair Brown goes to the bench. I'm not saying the defensive performance was just Talanoa Hufanga, but Jair Brown has been really struggling as of late, and Hufanga, whether you think it's good, bad, or otherwise, was an all-pro at one point in his career. He played with the club on. There was one particular play where he smashed into the Bears running back in the red zone. It was nice to see 29 back.
It was certainly a huge improvement, and that did have an effect, I think. There was not nearly as many open guys. I do think he helped in the run game a few times. Look, is he a starting caliber guy? Yeah. Do I pay him a bunch of money? No, because of his injuries. But, I think you can not necessarily close the book on Jair Brown, but he's not a starter.
Yeah, it's the third round pick. You weren't really expecting him to come in and be a starter, but I would like to see him. Like he's had some bad plays this year, but hooray, Talanoa Hufanga back and looked good. Brock Purdy says, it sounds weird to say out loud, says, what's our chances for a playoffs right now? Is it still 6? So the 49ers are 6-7 with the win. The Seahawks lead the division at 8-5. The Rams are 7-6, and then the Niners and Cards are 6-7. So it's not ideal. The Niners do play the Rams again, obviously, on Thursday, and they play the Cardinals again the final week of the season. San Francisco is the 11th seed right now in the NFC. So they need to win, and they need help in a big way to make the playoffs.
They have to win out because of the tiebreakers. They will not make the playoffs at 9-8. There will be a team tied with them, and it comes down to the NFC record, and the Niners are terrible right now in the NFC. So they have to win out. That's their chances. Their chances are winning out. What percentage that is actually at, I know this is probably a percentage that he's looking for, some kind of model or AI or betting line. I will put the percentage on. I'm not making the bet. I don't care what the odds are.
Right. Yeah. By the way, speaking of bets, did you hear about the guy that had $3 million on the Eagles to beat the Panthers? And oh my God, that game came down. I mean, if the Panthers could hold on to a touchdown pass, who knows what would have happened?
See, I wonder about bets like that, because if you have $3.1 million, you're probably not risking it at all on it. It's some massive whale out there that's crazy rich. It wouldn't have mattered.
And he only won. I mean, I say only, but compared to the size of the bet, he won $400,000. So if you're betting that much on the Eagles over the Panthers, you have $3 million to lose. I'll say that. Patrick Lucero says Rams had a track meet on a short week. #tired Rams. I mean, that game against Buffalo was wild. They were up big, and then Buffalo started coming back, and it ended up being, what was the final score? 44-42 Rams. When the Rams offense is going, man, they can look really good. Puka Nacua is really good. Stafford is still really, really good. Now, they can look like a totally different team next week, but when it's going good, their offense can churn out the yards.
There is this. Can you really change your scheme and game plan that drastically in 4 days? I don't think so.
Against the right opponent.
Right. So Kyle Shanahan probably has a little bit of an advantage when it comes to Thursday games because of that. The defense can't change their stuff.
Will Nick Bosa be back for that game? I don't know. I mean, they seem to make it seem like he could almost play this week. They didn't rule him out until very late, even though he didn't practice all week. So who knows? Gerardo H says they won't make the wild card at 10-7 either, have to win the division. I think that's the path to the playoffs, because unfortunately the Vikings are the 5th seed right now. They're 11-2, and they have the head-to-head tiebreaker against the Niners. The Packers are 9-4. They're the 6th seed. They have the head-to-head tiebreaker against the 49ers. So then you're talking about the Commanders at the 7th seed. They are 8-5 right now. So it's division or bust for the 49ers.
No, it's not. They're not winning the division. They're 2 games back and have the tiebreaker lost. So they're 3 games back in the division. That's not happening with 5 games to go.
It would take a miracle, quite frankly.
If they win out, they will make the playoffs.
If the Niners win out.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see.
Very high probability that they would then make the playoffs.
Yeah. I forgot what I was going to say. Anyway, nonetheless, the Niners are 4-5 in the NFC, 1-3. They have the worst record in the division. Seattle's 3-2 in the division. The Rams are 2-1, and the Cardinals are 2-2. I just loved what I saw from the 49ers today. It was just nice to see that it's still in there somewhere, buried deep. It was in there. The defense came out and they made plays. The offense made the plays that were there. I banged on the 49ers for saying, we know we're a good team. We know we're a good team when they kept losing all these games. But then they performed like they did today, and it was like, yeah, I see why they say that, right? The question is, can they keep it up? Can they continue to play like this? Can they continue to not turn the ball over? I know they did have a turnover today, but that was Brandon Allen throwing a pick when the game was all but over. Can they continue to do those things? Because if they can, they give themselves a chance.
If they win on Thursday, I'll start to get a little excited. Right now, I'm not, because I don't see it happening. So I'm not going to get my hopes up and sit here and think they're going to go on a 6-game win streak and more than double their
Right.
wins on a season to finish the year. I don't see it.
Billy Garza says it was against Chicago. Calm down. Yeah, I know, but also I've seen this Bears team the last 3 weeks against the NFC North lose 3 games by a combined 8 points. So they were playing with some of the best teams in the league, and the 49ers embarrassed them today. They embarrassed the Chicago Bears today, and that's hard to do to anybody in the NFL. And I'll say this. The reason they embarrassed the Bears is because they were miles ahead of them from a coaching perspective. Coaches and play callers can have slumps and they can have hot streaks also. If Kyle is about to go on a heater, calling plays, and go on a hot streak, the 49ers can do this offensively to any defense in the NFL. He's that good of a play caller. Now, will they? Probably not. But he can. And maybe he's about to go on a hot streak. Who the hell knows?
I will say this about Juan Jennings if you want positivity.
Yeah, I would like some from you for a change. Can you do it for us, please? They won 38-13 today.
If he had not had injury, this would be seen as a bigger NFL storyline of a breakout wide receiver. If he had not had injury and missed some time, he would be on pace right now for an 85 reception, 1,164 yard season. Would not have thought that's the amount of times that he's getting open 15 plus yards down the field. I never thought I would see him doing that consistently, but he is.
So John Lynch was on the radio today. Sorry, I'm pivoting because I saw this on Twitter and I want to get
Pivot.
to it. But pivot. John Lynch was asked about the whole Kyle Shanahan and, with trade to the Bears and that whole thing. Here's what John Lynch said earlier in the week.
I've found the whole discussion on Kyle and, like some of the stuff rather comical.
That was on KMBR. Kyle must have been asked about 11 because after the game, he said, quote, "I know I don't want to be any place in the world more than here. My family feels just as strong, if not stronger." I mean, the whole thing was kind of crazy. I know Florio was talking about maybe, I think Florio was saying the Bears should give the 49ers a call to see. I think it was more from a Bears perspective. And then he justified it by saying maybe Kyle wants to change the scenery, this, that, and the other thing. But Kyle Shanahan does not want to be anywhere else. And if he doesn't want to be anywhere else, he ain't going anywhere else because coaches have say when it comes to coach trades. So can we just put that to bed forever, please?
Not forever, but for this offseason, for sure.
I mean,
never say never. Like, we don't know what the future holds, but the simple fact is Kyle Shanahan has school-age children. I seriously doubt he wants to rip them out of their schools.
That is a factor, too. Like, as a father of 2, your kids, and that is a huge factor in your decision-making. And I know just from the decisions I've made in my life, I think as a parent, you may end up doing some things. I think it's your responsibility to maybe do some things you don't want to do to make your kid's life easier. And
yeah, like talk to Rob Stats Guerrero.
Right, exactly. I mean, hell, you need to cash those checks. I know what I pay you every week or every month, I should say. Nick Wagner has a little bit more on the Guerendo injury. He says the Niners are not sure the extent of his foot injury. Kyle says x-rays didn't show anything. Initial suspicion is a foot sprain, but more testing to come tomorrow. Man, it would be nice if he was able to go on Thursday. Because then you're talking about Patrick Taylor Jr. Like, they couldn't even have Israel Abanikanda active today because he doesn't know the system because he got here 10 minutes ago. And now you could possibly have to play on a short window on Thursday. We could be looking realistically on Thursday at a Deebo Samuel playing the whole game at running back game.
2 things. One, what kind of shape is Alfred Morrison?
Oh, God.
2, what kind of shape is Frank Gore in? Because he's already in the building.
Right? At least Frank's there. And man, we're talking about running back 5 potentially for the 49ers this year. Christian McCaffrey, Elijah Mitchell, Jordan Mason, now Isaac Guerendo. Man, somebody protect Patrick Taylor Jr. at all costs, please.
It's rough. And I'm kind of used to it at this point, honestly.
We do feel like we're a little bit numb.
The
Jonathan March,
Niners, like last year, was what? Probably the only year that the running back stayed healthy.
it was the only year that they weren't in the top 10 of most injured teams in the Shanahan era. So, and they got to the friggin' Super Bowl. Jonathan Marsh says, feels good to win again. So hyped to travel down there from Alaska for Thursday to watch Patrick Taylor Jr. at running back. Can't have nice things. Well, you know what? I'm glad they won when you were at the game, Jonathan. That's good. We appreciate the super chat. It does feel good to win again.
Hold on. That's not what he said. He said he's traveling down for Thursday.
All right. Well, then good. They could win on Thursday then for Jonathan. I'm fine with that too.
I'm totally fine with it. Can you imagine? Let's say, see, now I'm doing it to myself. They win Thursday. They go to Miami. They win.
Yes.
Now they're above 500.
Let the hope flow through you, Levin. Come on, man.
I've been burned too many times by Kyle Shanahan.
What was the line in Ted Lasso? It's the hope that kills you, right? It's the hope that kills you. Well, because that's what it was like in the Packers game for a while. Like, I didn't think they were going to win, and then they were in the game, and it was like they got a shot, and then they didn't win. It makes it that much more painful. Tanisha says, I love how Kyle challenged a lot of plays. I also like how we didn't have very many penalties. Kyle was like, you could tell it meant something to Kyle. One of the challenges, he launched that damn challenge flag right out there.
This was definitely, I think this was he finally challenged everybody. It was calling them out, so to speak. I think he appealed to their manhood, put it that way. I think you saw a team that was suddenly physical again. A team that wasn't going through the motions. You know what I mean? It seemed like everybody from players to coaches had an aggressive attitude again.
Nice to see. Let's be physical, right? We keep talking about the standard and what we are, and we know what it's supposed to look like Fred Warner said. Well, then let's see what it's supposed to look like out on the field. And it finally did on Sunday. Brisbee Life on Twitch, shout out to the Twitch fam, says that's why Levin is the wet blanket to shield himself from the pain of hope.
That's probably a part of it, but no, I'm somebody to my own detriment that is not into trying to fake it. That's what hope is. So I'm not. You know what I mean? I'm somebody that what the reality is the reality, and my brain can't go, oh yeah, but let's just pretend like this is actually possible. This could happen over here, so we feel better.
Let yourself hope, Levin.
There's a reason why self-help books don't work for me, because I get mad when I read them. I go, what kind of mental gymnastics is this crap teaching?
Yeah, also because you're beyond saving, I think really is what we should acknowledge at this point. Shield 2411 says, so pumped, worked with my cousin who's a Bears fan, owes me a Sam Adams 12-pack. Love you guys. Good for you. Somebody else had a good point. Dennis says Greenlaw should be back for the Rams game. That will give this team a boost. Now, we don't know what Dre Greenlaw is going to look like. Chances are he's going to be a shell of what he was, because he's coming off an Achilles injury, which is a devastating injury. But he does give this team a little bit of juice. And you know what? On a short week, you need the juice you can get. So I'll take it.
Can you imagine if they get Greenlaw, Bosa, and Trent Williams all back?
Hey, good players coming back to the 49ers. I checked the rule book. It's allowed. Lionheart says it feels like 2022 all over again, but instead of quarterbacks hurt, it's the personnel group of running backs. Kind of. That's a pretty good observation.
It's not the first time this team has been down to third, fourth string running backs, though. That's what I was saying. Like every year, it seems like they go through 2 or 3 running backs.
Except for last year.
Right. Last year was the anomaly. But there was the year where you had, I'm trying to remember who was starting, but it was the year that Raheem Mostert was the third string, got thrust in there, and then he broke his arm after emerging and showing something.
Right. Was it like Tevin Coleman and Raheem and Breida, maybe? I can't remember.
Yeah, I can't remember, but he was third. He was the guy that was never supposed to be part of anything. And, everybody was like, well, that's our special teams gunner. They don't like to use him as a running back, but he is third string. And then suddenly he started and he popped off for 100+ yards. And then the next game he got hurt and they were down to their fourth string. So this is something that has gotten kind of common. Like Alfred Morris was never supposed to be anything, but there were times we had to rely on him early in the Shanahan era because everybody else got hurt.
Alfred Morris, 6th-round pick, showing up to work in his 1994 Toyota Tercel, whatever it was that he kept throughout his NFL career. Let's talk a little bit about Brock Purdy. 20 of 25, 325 yards in the game, 2 touchdowns, no picks. It looked like the Brock Purdy that we saw so often last year. On target, on time, guys wide open, taking aggressive plays down the field when necessary. That was one thing I was a little nervous about. The Bears came out in that third quarter and they scored a touchdown on the opening drive. And my thought was, please, Kyle, don't turtle up. Don't be conservative because you got to keep the pressure on and you've been owning them offensively all day. And they ended up going 3 and out, but they passed on 2 of the 3 plays and they were deep passes down the field. And that told me Kyle is not going to turtle up. He is going for it. And they stayed aggressive the entire game and they never let the Bears get back into it.
It's by far his best home game of the year. He came into this game with, I think, 4 touchdowns and 7 interceptions at home. He's been terrible at home. He's been a lot better on the road than at home. But he's over 3,000 yards now on the season. He's got 15 touchdowns to 8 interceptions. Things are starting to look better. If he can put together another 5 games of not necessarily at this level, but something similar, he's going to end up looking like somebody that you pay.
This is what I liked about this game in the second half. Here are the Niners drives: punt, touchdown, and then the interception, but that came from Brandon Allen at the end of the game when it was 38-13. It wasn't the Niners that we have seen this year, who had 6 turnovers in the last 2 weeks in the second half. They protected the ball. They stayed aggressive. They continued to add touchdowns to the scoreboard, and that's how you get a blowout. And I just hope that continues next week against the Rams. Hope against hope. And again, I know I get it. There's people in the chat that are mad right now today. Oh, who cares? We ruined the draft pick. LAL. Dude, who cares? We're not doing a damn thing this year. Just lose to get a high draft pick, for Christ's sake. Here's the thing, LAL. High draft pick doesn't guarantee anything. It doesn't guarantee you get a good player. You can get Patrick Mahomes was 10th. Okay. I don't care about the draft pick. I'm sorry. I don't. We got plenty of time to focus on the draft when during the long, hot off season over the summer. We can worry about that in the later. I'm worried about winning games now. I want to see my team win. And until they're mathematically eliminated, I want to see him win. I'm sorry, I do.
It's something that's in the back of my mind as I watch games at this point, but it's not something that I allow myself to act on, kind of is where it's at. It's yeah, I know the draft position matters. Yeah, I know that this hurts that, but I'm not to the point where I'm going to start worrying about that, but it is something that pops in my mind constantly.
I'll worry about it later, man. Somebody in the chat, I just saw an interesting thing. Diego said, Javi Vega said on Twitter, if Brandon Staley was calling the defense, that would be fascinating. If all of a sudden they kind of demoted, like a shadow demotion of Nick Sorensen, and all of a sudden magically they just let Brandon Staley call the plays. I mean,
if that's the case, we're going to know, because as soon as the season's over, you're going to see Sorensen fired and Staley named as the defensive coordinator, judging by this result.
Well, I said the second they hired Brandon Staley, I said that's the guy they want actually calling the defense. Again, I think we need more evidence, not to cast aspersions on Javi Vega, because I love him and he's welcome on this network anytime. But we need more info than that before we say that there has been.
I saw the tweet. He had a question mark on it.
Yeah. Well, you could say anything if you put a question mark after it, right? Isn't that that's official journalism rules, I think. If you put a question mark, you could say whatever you want.
I mean, that's kind of the point of a question mark instead of a period, right?
I clearly think it's obvious. I want to say to everybody, thank you for watching. There's over 1,100 people watching right now. If this is your first time checking us out, thank you so much. Please give us a chance. We're live every single weekday. We're live after every game. We're live after all breaking news. We do a 49ers in 5 news update every weekday morning that gets you caught up on everything you need to know about the team, with injury reports and press conference clips and all that stuff. Please give us a chance. 20,000 YouTube subscribers can't be wrong, damn it. Actually, over 20,000. So thank you for watching, everybody. Please keep it up. Is there anything else from today's game that you wanted to touch on? How about Jake Moody screwing up 2 kickoffs, Levin, and giving the Bears field position at the 40-yard line? Now he can't even kick off. He's got to go next year, man.
I'm not overly terrified or upset about a kickoff being bad. That means the team can't return the ball.
But you give them the ball at the 40-yard line, man.
I know. Yeah, I don't know that they'll move on from him because how bad he has been a little exaggerated because the times that he has failed. I would not be upset if they did, but I personally, unless he finishes really poorly, I don't see them moving on from him.
All I know is there's too much bad there and not enough good for me to say we need to keep him, right? Like with Deebo, it was like, yeah, he doesn't hustle sometimes, right? Yeah, he doesn't necessarily block the best, but when he gets the ball in his hands, he's special and he terrorizes people and he could change a game single-handedly. Jake Moody's not doing that, okay? And so if you're not doing that, I can't put up with you not being able to do the routine stuff. And to give the team, like if they had played a better team, if they're playing the Rams and the Niners have a lead, you can't give the Rams the ball at the 40-yard line twice in a game. You can't do that. It's inexcusable. Kick the damn ball off properly.
I will say it's kind of inexcusable because kickoffs it's the easiest part of kicking.
Right. No one's guarding you. No one's trying to block the kick. Nobody can even move until the ball is caught. Like, I got to be able to count on you, dude.
Yeah. Like I said, I would not be upset if they moved on. At this point, I don't necessarily like his demeanor. It's a little too, like I said, there was a possibility early on that maybe he's just somebody that's unemotional and isn't fazed by things. But at this point, it kind of looks like he doesn't quite get it, if that makes sense. Like, I can't quite put my finger on it and think of how to describe it, but it just seems like there's no frustration ever. And you want to see something.
It's not been good. There's been too much bad and not enough good to justify it. Matthew Rowley says, I'm not mad. I just don't want to get the hopes up. And also this points out Kyle's biggest issue. He refuses to play the best players, and it's a problem. Well, which player is he not playing that you want to see playing at this point? Cowing?
I don't, maybe he's talking about defense, but I don't know.
They're all in there at this point because everybody's so hurt.
Well, yeah, there's that. But it will be interesting to see how they finish. And it will be interesting to see if he finally faces the facts and phases Deebo out. Deebo had 2 catches for 22 yards and 5 runs for 13 yards in this game. They literally did what they could to give him the ball. And like I said, there were multiple times I was like, ooh, he's got daylight. This is about to be one of those big Deebo plays. And then he just ran right at the defender.
He looks slow. He doesn't.
And he didn't break a tackle.
There was a play where he got the ball and it was like in the backfield and there was one guy to beat and then he had some space and the guy just brought him down. And it's like that never happened before. Yeah. Even when guys had open shots. Remember that even the Ravens game last year. Remember that Ravens defensive back that came screaming in and threw everything he had at Deebo and he just bounced off and continued down the field? Like, that guy is gone, man. We
need fat Deebo. We need pudgy Deebo.
Maybe we just need to use Deebo as a decoy the rest of this. Let him return kicks. I mean, if you notice, he was returning kicks today. Think about that.
How are you gonna use him as a decoy when he can be covered by one person?
That tells you all you need to know about the Niners and Deebo. He's the kick returner now. They couldn't put him at kick returner before because you couldn't risk him getting hurt, even though he could have been an elite kick returner. Now they're not afraid of that. That's what that tells you this year. They're not afraid of Deebo getting hurt because 1, the offense needs the help, and 2, he hasn't contributed on offense. And like you said, he's not drawing double teams, so it's not like that anymore. I think the fact that he's the regular kick returner now tells you all you need to know about what Kyle really thinks of Deebo Samuel.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of those. It's kind of like you said earlier. You excuse the taking plays off, not really blocking as much as you should sometimes, things like that, when it is a one-of-a-kind special weapon. When it's not that anymore, it's one of those things that it goes from that's excusable to get the heck out of here real quick.
And I'm not going to lie, but if I got to watch somebody that can't get open against man coverage, I'd much rather watch Ricky Pearsall not get open against man coverage than Deebo Samuel. They tried to throw to Ricky
I
Pearsall.
would much rather watch you try to get open against man coverage.
Let me tell you, that's a tall order.
I want to watch you against press coverage.
I don't have any strength. I don't have any burst. I don't have anything.
Hey, Richard Sherman, come on, let's set it up. Special duo podcast. You versus Richard when he does press coverage.
Well, first of all, Richard could cover me with his blown out Achilles. So let's just say that. Nick Wilkinson, thank you for the super chat, says Deebo is so frustratingly unreliable now. Me sad. Just accept it. Like Kyle has to accept it. It's over. It's over. I saw somebody say that, Kyle's offense looks better when he doesn't have his crutch players, which is basically McCaffrey and Deebo. And I kind of agree with that. They were getting the ball to Juwan Jennings. They were getting the ball to George Kittle. That's who should be getting the ball.
You're saying I was right last year when I said Deebo was a crutch for him?
I don't think I ever disputed that. Why are you making it seem like I was arguing with you last year?
I'm just trying to get you to say I was right.
You weren't wrong. How's that? Does that make you feel good?
I do think that there is very much a truth there. That when Kyle has a shiny weapon that he thinks is one of a kind, he ignores everything else.
Well, I hope he thinks that George Kittle is the shiny weapon, because he should lead this team in receiving yards every game for the rest of the year. He absolutely should. I loved the screen passes to him multiple times today. He catches the ball and he runs down the field like a drunken rhinoceros. It's fantastic. And there's no way for a defense to stop it. You can get the ball to him on screens twice a game, every game.
He does have a unique gait to him. The way in which he runs, it's similar to Gronk's running style, where there's like a hitch there. You know what I mean? Yet somehow it's still fast. It's weird.
He'll do this thing. I've seen him do it multiple times this year, where he catches the ball, he starts out running in one direction, and he's going so fast he has to like swing his arm in the other direction, and then he changes direction, and it's so fast that defenders fall down. I've seen it this year. So like he's still got the giddy up, man. Give 85 the ball and let him eat the rest of the season.
Yeah, they did. I don't know if I'm assuming you did because they put it on the screen, but he's the third tight end ever to have 7,000 yards in their first, seasons? I'm 6 or 7 seasons. It's got to be 7. He's the first tight end to do that, or third tight end to do that. So it's him, Kelsey, and I think it was Tony Gonzalez. Antonio Gates was the third.
Third tight end in history with 500 catches and 7,000 receiving yards. And think about how much faster he could have gotten it if they featured him. So many games and times where they just did not give him the ball. He's a Hall of Famer. He should be a no doubt.
Graphic is missing one part.
Well,
there it is. It's in the tweet. In his first 8 seasons. Obviously, there's been more tight ends at 500 receptions and 7,000 yards in their career.
He should be a no doubt first ballot Hall of Famer. And I hope that maybe he went to Kyle. I don't know. Or maybe Kyle heard his comments after.
Kyle definitely heard his comments, and there was probably a conversation about it.
Good. And you know what? If Kittle had gone to Kyle previously and said, get me the ball more, and Kyle didn't, that's on Kyle. And if George didn't go to Kyle, then that's on George. But like, clearly these two should have had a conversation because we've seen what it looks like when they go to him.
I would add a slight bit to that. If George has gone there and Kyle did not do this until now, then yeah, that's absolutely on Kyle. But if George had not gone to him, yes, it's on him, but it's also on Kyle because Kyle should be getting his best players the ball.
Yes, but it's still also on George partly too. Like, you're a captain, you're the heart and soul of this team.
You're a receiver. Give me the ball. Love you sometimes.
Right. Nice. Yo, I like this comment from Kyle Shanahan after the game. He said, if you don't take care of business on Thursday, there's not much to celebrate about today. It's exactly the mentality that this team should have. It's great to win, 100%. Take 10 hours and be happy, but you have dug yourself in too deep a hole to be patting yourself on the back. Get ready for Thursday now because you are in it. You are in the playoffs right now for the rest of the season if you're the 49ers.
Yeah, I would have said that the weeks before, but that's either here nor there now. But I sure hope they win on Thursday. Like I said, I haven't had much hope since pretty much week 5 is when it really died. Week 3 depressed me, but I was going to the game in week 4, so I was not going to allow myself to tune out yet. Not tune out, but say it's over yet. And then obviously they won that week 4 against the Patriots. Then the week 5 game was the game that I was on vacation still. I stopped at a pizza joint after hiking all morning to watch the second half, and I'm sitting in a little pizza joint outside of Seattle, hearing the Seattle game going in the bar that Seattle's winning and coming back to win, while I'm watching the Niners game on my phone and watching them screw it all up. That was when the season died for me.
Nick Wilkinson says, want to see Kittle and Winston play together one day? No, you can't have him. And I don't want Jameis Winston on this team anymore either. So
I wouldn't mind Jameis Winston as a backup.
Oh, God, I would. He's a human turnover. I mean, the only thing he's good for
is backup.
The only thing he's good for is a good soundbite. When he said last week, pray to God to deliver me from pick sixes, like that's an all-time good soundbite from a quarterback. But that's the best thing he does is talk. It's not play quarterback.
He's the ideal backup. Somebody that you don't want as a starter, but somebody that could come in and absolutely dominate the game and be a massive difference maker. He's not a starter because he could also come in and completely crap the bed.
And lose the game for you.
Yes. But as a backup, to me, quarterback position is different than everywhere else. Everywhere else, it's like, give me the guy that's at least not going to screw it up. Quarterback is, if your quarterback is down, you're desperate and you need a miracle. So give me the guy where a miracle is actually possible.
Yeah, I don't know if I want that. I don't want a guy that could lose me the game. I don't want my backup quarterback to be.
You don't have a choice. He's a backup.
Yeah, I don't think so. I would rather have a guy that might not be able to win it on his own, but I want a guy that definitely doesn't lose it. That's just my personal opinion. Let's do some game balls here before we go 11. Who gets your game ball today for the win?
That's a tough one. I would say Guerendo because it was he showed that he can be starting, but then he got hurt. So it seems weird to give him the game ball. I will go ahead and say I give the game ball to Purdy because he avoided some sacks. He had a lot of rollouts. He showed that he's still there, that he's not going. This is one of the, I feel like the last couple of weeks, it could have been a turning point. He could crater and keep pushing too hard and trying too hard and have everything fall apart on him, or correct it. And it seems like maybe he corrected it.
He said this week, I feel like I'm the guy that can dig us out of this. It's like, well, good. Get the shovel, dude. What are you waiting for? He played like it today.
I take it back. I'm going Gross Matos. I forgot he had 3 sacks.
Oh, great. So everything you just said is bogus. Yetur Gross Matos. Hooray.
Got to stretch the show, you know.
Yeah. I love Yetur. Great. 3 sacks. Keep it up, please. Because Matthew Stafford's been very good at not taking sacks, and they're going to need to get pressure on him next week if they have any shot with the way that Rams offense is playing. So please keep that up. I'm going to assume you took Brock Purdy, so I'll take him off the board, and I'll take Yetur Gross Matos off the board. I'm giving it to Kittle, man. George freaking Kittle. 6 catches, 151 yards, set the tone, had a long of 33, multiple big plays in the game, had a nice third down conversion where Kyle got him so freaking open. It was ridiculous. Bears linebackers are literally pointing at him during the play, and he's so open. He catches the ball for a first down. So I'm going to give it to George Kittle. He is the leader of this team. The offense takes his cue from him and from Juwan, and he showed up in a big way today as the Niners got a win. They absolutely had to have to keep this season on life support, and that's where it is right now. And it's okay to acknowledge that. And it's okay to say, you hope that they do well. We can talk about draft pick later. We can talk about draft pick when they're mathematically eliminated. I think it's perfectly okay to hope for your team to win right now.
I always hope for my team to win. If they one more loss and it's, I want to kind of see them win, but boy, I kind of want to see them lose too. We talked about that recently, that there was almost an entire decade where every season by like week 2, it was, all right, it's about the draft pick, but at the same time, I want to see some wins. I'm desperate here. And so you were like stuck in this weird spot where you want to see them win, but you also want to see them lose.
For me, I never really root for them to lose. I root for them to win, and then when they're eliminated, I root for the young players to develop and look good. And if they lose, I don't get upset about it. But I still really root for them to win.
That's kind of how I try to approach it. I'm always going to root for them to win, but when they lose, because they're mathematically eliminated from the playoffs, I don't necessarily feel happy about it. But part of me goes, okay, and kind of like a little smirk comes.
Yeah. Look, would you rather be the Jets who got eliminated from playoff contention today for the 14th straight season? No, man. No.
That's so depressing to me. I'm sorry. I heard that earlier this year, how long it's been since the Jets have been in the playoffs. And I go, God, I'm old.
Think about that.
Because the Sanchez years don't seem that long ago. And that's the last time they were in the playoffs, when it was Rex Ryan and Mark Sanchez to start his career.
I root for the Seattle Mariners, and they went 21 years between playoff appearances. I've lived that life. Who cares about the draft pick, man? I like when sports make me feel good. That's the whole reason why we pay attention. And they made me feel pretty damn good today, and I'm going to just enjoy that. And if you can't enjoy that because you're worried about the draft pick, you do you. But I'm not trying to hear that right now, particularly on Sunday, the day of the victory. So
I know my Raiders fan is really happy right now.
Why?
Because they moved into first for the first overall pick.
Big deal. Who cares? Great. You know how many times the first overall pick sucks? A lot. Caleb Williams was the first overall draft pick. How'd he look today against the 49ers defense, missing starters left, right, and center?
That's one of the I've watched 4 or 5 games of the Bears this year. I mean, I grew up in Bears country. I grew up in a Bears family, so to speak. Caleb Williams is not it. Like he might be a starter in this league for a while. He has flashes, but he definitely had. I don't think he processes quite well enough. And to me, the mental makeup, I don't like it.
Well, whatever the case may be, Caleb Williams ain't my damn problem. All right, my problem is the Rams, and that problem is Thursday night.
He will be your problem in like 4 years when he's the backup, and David Lombardi saying he's the next Steve Young.
Because his contract's going to expire and Kyle's going to believe in him. And we'll be having that discussion. Oh, God, spare me from that. Let's not even go there right now. That's going to do it for this edition of the show. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Please like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Like I said, we're live every single weekday. We're live after every game. We're live after all breaking news. You can follow us wherever you get your audio podcasts as well, the Gold Standard Audio Podcast. Please like and subscribe there. Leave a rating and a review. That really helps people discover us. Levin, thank you for joining it. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday, everybody. Let's enjoy the happy recap on Sunday.